Uh, in when I was growing up in Montreal, big city, but it was a suburb. I only knew one black person, a little fellow named Teofilo, just a couple doors down, and we got along great and everything. But when we moved to Los Angeles, we lived with my mom's aunt for a few months until we were able to, buy a house and all that. But what's interesting about it is she lived in the Black District. It was District of Watts, and so I was in a minority when I went to school in the fifth grade for the first 6 months. So that was interesting. I got along with everybody. I didn't think much of it, but uh, it's kind of interesting to be in a minority because all my life before that, was just white people, and all of a sudden, there are more black people than whites. But you know what? As a kid, I didn't look at it as black or white. It was just a little different. But people are people, and I never had any fights with any of them, and I got along with everybody as best as I could be understood. Maybe they just left me alone because they can speak with me. I don't know, but uh, that that was interesting. And then a few years later, this was around 1965 and 66. We had bought a house in this place called Southgate, but it was uh, just a few miles away from an area where there was a lot of unrest in the cultural. It was a place where we could see people burning down their own businesses in Watts, which was a black district, and I never understood any of that. Uh, it was just a matter of fact. One time, a neighbor right next door, uh, we found out he got shot and killed because he went to that area and tried to steal television, and um, they had the police, national, what do you call those guys? National force on protecting. They were called the LA riots. And anyway, they shot him, killed him. It's like,
Oh,
wow.
so you lived there when they had the LA riots?
The LA riot. Now, this is the LA riots of 1965 and 66, not the same one where
Not
we
the
had
Rodney King ones?
the Rodney King one happened in the 1990s or so. But in the 60s, it was tumultuous because they had the Vietnam War, and everybody was opposed to it. There was a lot of demonstration, and then there was the time of Martin Luther King, and the black people were making their moves and their desire to be equal, which in my book, all men are created equal, whether black, white, yellow, or whatever. I mean, these are all God's people, and so I have a difficult time in people looking at, well, about what's happened with the segregation of the 50s and what's happened in the South, which I have no understanding of it. How can people be so mean to one another because of how they look or what color they are? And so, I mean, racism is definitely around, but I just don't feel it because I've never been a part of it.
So the segregation in schools and stuff was before your time? You didn't ever
Yeah,
see that?
yeah, it was in the 50s. I was still in Canada. We didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But as we live in the South,